In this demonstration, we'll be taking you through how CluedIn deals with incoming data that's changing structure on a regular basis in a way that doesn't mean we have to stop the flow of actual data. So let's go and create ourselves an ingestion endpoint. Let's call it incoming feed. We're going to put it in a group called public, just to represent that it's coming from a public dataset feed, something we don't have control over. Let's say it's coming from the housing department. Okay, it's going to ask us for what type of domain are we working with here. In this case, let's say it is a house. The concept of a house doesn't exist in the platform yet, but as you can see, we can just construct that on the fly. Let's choose an appropriate icon, click add, and CluedIn will generate that public endpoint for us. Let's go take a look and view the instructions. So now we have a public endpoint that the housing department can push their public feeds to, so we can get this data to pretty much real time. Reading the instructions, you can see that it's given me a route in which we have to do a post to that data, and I have to generate an API token as well. So let's click the API token link, and let's generate ourselves a brand new token for the housing department. Just keep it at 30 days. And now we've got an API token that we can hand to the housing department to authenticate their feeds. Let's head back to our integration and let's copy this link. To simulate the incoming data, I'm going to use Postman. Here, we're going to do a HTTP post, pasting in the URL, and we need to specify the authentication token. Let's copy that to the clipboard and paste it into our token here. Now, let's head to our body, change this to raw, change this to JSON to show that we're accepting JSON data into the CluedIn platform. Now, if we head back to our instructions, you can see that it's saying it requires a body that contains a JSON object array, where each of the objects in that array will represent a house. Let's close this down. Let's close down our token, and let's head back to build up our request. So let's start small. Let's say that we just have a column called ID, and it's got a value of 1, 2, 3. Post this record through. You can see that there is a success, and you can see that CluedIn has accepted that record into the staging environment. It still needs the data to be mapped. We don't have to do that now. Okay, so let's change a few things. Let's just say that the housing department changes their data structure. And instead of sending IDs through as a string like this, it's going to now send it through as a number. Click send, and you can see once again there is a success. We head over to our ingestion endpoint and refresh. You can see that the new record has entered the platform without any big issues with the typing. Okay, so let's progress the model. Let's say that we now have a field called name. And this house is the Department of Internal Affairs. Okay, we can post that in. We see a success is true. If we head back to our integration and refresh the page, you can see that it's also auto-expanded to take the new values in. We still see that we first two records didn't have a name. The third one does, but that's not a problem. This is CluedIn automatically adapting to the incoming data. Okay, let's add a few more things here. Let's add multiple records. Let's say this is 456, and say that this is the swimming pool. Okay, let's post those records. Successfully received 2. And if we head back to our endpoint and refresh, we can see that the 2 new records have also been accepted as well. Now, notice that these 2 records are absolutely identical to each other, but CluedIn is keeping a transaction log of these events that are being pushed through from the data source. Okay, so let's complicate things a little bit. Let's say that we have 2 different objects coming through, where each object is different. Let's post that in. You can see that it successfully received 2. Let's refresh our page. And you can see that CluedIn has happily adapted to that inconsistent structure in the incoming data as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start to map this data into the platform. For this, it's automatically chosen house because that's what we set up in the actual integration itself of the ingestion endpoint. And as we type in house, you can also see that the vocabulary for a house doesn't exist. Well, it's going to automatically build this on the fly, and it's also going to take in the 2 possible columns that already exist in the data. Let's go and create that mapping. Let's edit the mapping. And you can see that CluedIn's already automatically detected that the name can be used as the entity name. And it's also automatically detected that the ID can be used as a way to uniquely identify these houses. You can also see that it's detecting that a couple of these records will actually be merged together because they have the same identifier. This is exactly what I want the system to be able to do. Okay, let's click Next, Finish. Let's head to Process, and let's turn on Auto Submission. In this way, now that the mapping has been set up, as soon as new records are posted in from the housing department, they're going to be automatically mapped, processed, and in the CluedIn platform. So let's go ahead and click Process. You can see that 7 records are going to be created based off the 7 records that I posted from the housing department. But you'll find that when we ingest this data into the CluedIn platform, because they had similar IDs, that they'll be merged together. Okay, so I've successfully pushed 7 different records into the CluedIn platform. Let's head over to our search, and you can see that now I've just got 2 houses. Okay, that's exactly what I was expecting. If we head into the Department of Internal Affairs, we can see a history that shows us the multiple records that made up this particular record in the incoming feed. We can also see a topology of what IDs were used to be able to stitch this data together. As you can see, the 2 records were stitched together with this 123 record, 123 entity code that existed in all the different records. Let's head over to our swimming pool, and we can see something similar. 2 different endpoints, 2 different records that have been merged together, and you can see that they've all been merged with that 456 ID. Great. If we also head to our properties, we head to our swimming pool and view a history, you can see that it's built up a history log of the values of the name over time. Okay, so now that this is a live stream of data, let's go back and let's start to change things up. So once again, let's go back, and I'll just keep it simple for now. Let's change this back to a string. And 789 is now the ID. And let's get rid of the house name for starters. Even now that we've mapped it, when we send the records through, you can see that it successfully was able to launch that record into the platform. Let's head back to our search. And you can see that there's a new house, but we don't have a nice name for it. Let's change that. Let's keep the ID, and we'll call this name. And we'll call this CluedIn HQ. Let's click Send. Refresh our page. And you can see that now there's been an in-place replacement of that record. So we've been able to progressively build up this model over time, and CluedIn is able to automatically match, merge, and keep an audit trail of all the different ingestion feeds that brought in that data. You can also see, per request, what data actually came in. So now we have an expansive way to be able to build up and adapt to model changes over time from incoming data sources.